everyone, welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. This week I have a really cute and quick tutorial for you. It is another motif. So we are working on this cute little offset granny motif. Now I know a lot of you guys love granny squares, granny motifs, granny projects. And I do have a project coming up using this motif. So a lot of times what I like to do is I like to create a separate tutorial for the actual motif. And that way you can always just reference the motif tutorial so that you can use it for any other project that you want. But you are going to be seeing this motif again very, very soon. Now, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Karen and I love sharing my love of crochet. And I adore all things to do with crafting with crochet. And if you're a regular family member here, welcome back. It's always good to have you hang out with me. So we are going to create, I'm calling this the offset granny. So at first glance, hopefully you can see that clearly, it is a diamond, but it's a diamond that's embedded inside a square. So it's just a little offset take on creating a regular granny square so that the center looks like a diamond. And it's pretty easy to do. And now I'm sure many of you are going to ask me how to make this larger. I will tackle that in a different project. But for now, I'm going to just show you how to create this sweet little square. And in case you're wondering, it's 3 rows or 3 rounds, I should say. I'm just going to measure this here. So it measures about 2.5 inches across, which is just under 7 centimeters. Okay. And as you can see here, I've got 2 little colorways here. So I'm using white and red. So you can see how it looks in either or there. And I just think it's super cute and super quick. So let's dive in. I'm going to get you guys going on how to create your very own offset granny square. Okay, so for this little tutorial, I am using Lion Brand's Heartland yarn. Many of my regular crochet friends here know how much I adore this yarn. My only complaint is they do not have white. Why don't you have it in white? They've got all of these other fabulous, beautiful shades, different colors. But they just don't have white, and I don't understand why not, because I would definitely use that. So it is a medium 4-weight yarn, and I had some left over. I believe this is the Snuggly yarn, and it is closer to a lightweight 3, but it's pretty comparable. This is a medium 4. But you can see that they're pretty comparable. So, you know, not all yarn weights are created equal. So a lot of times you'll see a yarn that's a medium 4 weight and another one that's a medium 4, but they don't look the same. So it's really important when you're creating a motif like this, if you're changing colors, really try and pay attention to the yarn weight. So as I said, my square is about 2.5 inches long and high, or in length and in width. Now, obviously, if you're going to use a bulky weight 5 or a super bulky weight 6, your little square is going to be larger. So if you're looking to make a larger type of square using this motif, for now, you can definitely go up in yarn weight and even do something as simple as go up in a hook size or 2. Okay, so just to keep that in mind. So these are the colors I'm going to be using. It is a medium 4, and the hook size I'm using is a 5mm hook, which is also known as an H or a size 8. And as always, make sure you have a pair of scissors and a yarn needle to sew in any ends at the end. So let's get started. Okay, so for this tutorial, I'm going to start with the red. So I'm going to create the motif that has the red center and then work around the white. I find a lot of times red is tricky to see on camera. So the least amount of time that I spend using the red, the better for you guys. So you can see when I stretch out the square, see how there's a square in there, but then it's offset to create a little bit of a diamond shape. So that's what we're going to start off with. So you're going to begin with a cinch circle. Now this is the way I love doing my granny motifs. I love the cinched in center. If you are more comfortable doing that chain 4 or chain 5 center, then by all means go for it. Just be aware that it will, of course, change the sizing of your general motif because it'll just make your center just a wee bit larger. It's not the end of the world. I just wanted you guys to have a heads up. So I'm going to insert my hook into my loop there, and then I'm going to pull up a loop and chain 1 to secure my cinch circle. So I'm not going to use a slip knot, right? And then I'll just pull through that loop so that my tail is sitting flush. There we go. And now I'm going to chain an additional 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is going to give me 5 chains in total. So this chain of 5 is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 2. Okay. Next, I'm going to go back into my ring here and I'm going to place 3 double crochets. So I'm going to insert my hook and I'm going to place a double crochet there. So it creates like a little bit of a V. And now I'm going to place 2 more. So those of you that do lots of granny squares, this will be very, very familiar to you. Okay, there we go. So what do we have in our ring? We've got a double crochet, which is represented by 3 of these chains, and then we have a chain 2 space. So that's why this little space here looks a little bit wider. Then we have 3 double crochets, which creates a shell stitch. Okay, now we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Then I'm going to go back into the circle and place another shell stitch, which is 3 double crochets. So in this first round, we're trying to establish our basic shape, which is to have 4 sides and 4 corners. So the chain 2 right now is allowing our corners to shape and point. Look at that. See, so there's a corner. Now this was the beginning of our first corner, but we only did a partial side, and I'll show you at the end when we get there. So we've got 2 corners. Now we're going to go into our third corner. We're going to chain 2 and create another side by placing a shell stitch, which is 3 double crochets. So we have 1, we have 2, and we have 3. Just like that. So you can see the square is starting to shape. We need to create 1 more corner. So we have chain 2. I'm going to pull that in a bit. Now, we have 1 more shell to do, but remember that chain 3 already counts as 1. So we're just going to simply place 2 more double crochet stitches in here. And I always want to make sure I work over that tail so I can cinch my circle shut. So there's 2 double crochets, and then there is the third one here. Now, first and foremost, what I want to do is I want to take that tail and I'm going to pull that shut just like that. Don't be afraid to pull it nice and tight. See? And now our center is shut. And now I'm going to find the top of the third chain here, which actually is down here. And I'm going to slip stitch to join. And then I always like slip stitching into the space, and round 1 is complete. So you can see, whoops, that our square has been formed. So we've got our 4 corners and our 4 sides. See that? So now I'm going to snip my yarn. So I slip stitched into the space, but let me just chain 1 and snip my yarn. And there we have it. That's it. And then you can weave in those tails. So this is the center of our square. Now you can see it's actually a diamond shape. So what's going to happen is we're going to place it this way, and our next round, our corners are going to be worked into sides, and that's what creates that diamond-like effect. So I'm actually just going to weave these ends in real quick just so that they don't distract you guys. And then I'll come back and we're going to go on to round number 2. Okay guys, so I've woven in all of my ends, and now I'm going to bring on my white color. And I'm going to show you a really cool, neat little trick that I just learned myself. So we're going to place a slip knot on our hook. And I'm going to show you how we're going to create I like to call it a self-contained double crochet. And I have a couple of different ways that I have done it myself in the past, and I've shown it in other tutorials. But recently I was watching a quick little tutorial from Bella Coco Crochet, which I know many of you know who she is, Sarah Jane there. She's got well over 1 million crochet followers. And if you don't know who she is and are not already following her, I will leave a link to her channel down below. You definitely should check her out. Her tutorials are so wonderful, fabulous. And so she had this great little hack on how to start, because a lot of times we would start and we would do a chain 3, which works just fine. But I found this one just creates a really kind of cool way to hide that beginning. Now, before we get to that, normally when we're doing regular granny motifs or granny squares, we would kind of start usually in a chain space, right? And that of course would then maintain the square shape and it would just continue growing from there. But because we want our corners now to not sit in the regular corner, we want them to sit on the side, we are going to start in the sides of our square, and that will force the inner square to tilt to create a diamond shape. Hopefully that makes sense. So instead of going into the corner here, we're going to go into the middle of our shell stitch. So see that there, those 3 double crochet stitches. So we're going to find the middle stitch, which is right here. And we're going to insert our hook. Now, before we do that, we've got the loop on our hook. What we want to do is we want to yarn over, and I just use my finger here to secure, so it kind of makes it like there's 2 loops on the hook. Then I'm going to insert my hook. I will yarn over and pull up a loop, and I'm still securing that one there. So see how it looks like I have 3 loops? Now I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through those first 2 loops like you would do with a double crochet. See, it's just a little trick there because of where it is. I've got 2 loops left, and now I'm going to yarn over and pull through the last 2. So you've created basically like a regular double crochet on its own, a self-contained double crochet. So you're going to have this little tail here, but you will weave that in at the end. So that's my very first stitch into the middle of the shell stitch there, yeah? So this is the beginning of my first corner, and remember, I always start with a partial corner here. So I'm going to chain 2 now, 1, 2, and now I'm going to go back into the same stitch and place a shell stitch, which is 3 double crochets. So I have 1, and then I have 2, and I have 3. Okay, so remember, a corner is created by placing a shell, chain 2, and another shell. Now you can already see what it's doing. It's actually shaping nicely so that it's already meeting up with the corner. So now we have this corner along a side. Now what I'm going to do here, just to get me around the bend there, is I'm going to chain 1. It's not really going to mean anything later, but it's just going to allow us some spacing to get to the other side. So we're going to skip over this corner and find the middle stitch of the next shell, which is right there. Now into this one, we're going to place a shell, chain 2, and shell. So that means 1, 2, 3 double crochets, then I'm going to chain 2 and go back into the same stitch and do another shell. So we have 1, 2. You can see that chain 2 really allows those corners to have some nice definition. Just like that. Look at that. So what did we do? we started along the flat side and we did a partial corner. That chain one helped us kind of stretching over, and it gave us the space for the corner of this square to nestle beautifully there while we created our next corner. See that? Isn't that cool? And so now what we're going to do is we're going to continue on. I'm going to, because this is so short and sweet, I'm going to do the whole thing with you guys. So I'm going to chain one. Then again, I'm going to find the middle stitch, which is right there. And I'm going to place my very next corner, which is, you guys know, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, or shell, chain 2, and shell. So there's that first shell. I'm going to chain 2 and then go back into that same spot and place my next shell. Just like that. Look at that. So you can really see that the diamond shape is now coming through nicely. So we've got one more to go. So we're going to chain 1 to give us some room. We've got our last shell stitch here. So we go into the center, and again, you know what to do. So the shell here. Oh my goodness, so many wonderful ideas that you can use this motif in. So we did our chain 2, back in for our last shell stitch there. There we go. So that's our last corner. And then remember we have that partial corner. So let me chain 1 first. So we've already got 1 double crochet in there as part of our shell. So we just need to place 2 more in there. So I'm just going to insert double crochet and then our second double crochet. And now what we're going to do is at the top of this double crochet, which is that very first little stitch there, we are going to slip stitch to join our round. Look at that. Done. Look at how easy that was. See? So you've got our initial square is there. And then because we worked our corners along the side, so if I just stretch that, you can see that now it's created a diamond motif. And I love how the corners just sit perfectly in those chain 1 spaces. That's it, that's all. And of course, for those of you guys that want to experiment with creating a larger square with more rounds, you can play around. You always want to start a corner along the long side. Now, it will get tricky as it gets a bit longer to keep the side straight. And that's why I am going to be exploring that deeper in a different tutorial. So for now, I'm going to keep this now I did say it's a 3-round motif. So we've done 2 rounds. The third round, which I'm going to take you into next, is just a nice simple finishing round, especially if you're going to use this to sew the motifs together. So I'm not going to snip my yarn here. I'm going to take you into round number 3. Okay, so what I want to do here is I just want to slip stitch into the chain space. I like doing that for my motifs here. So then I'm going to chain 1, and into this corner, I'm going to place a single crochet. Okay, so that's our first stitch here. And then I'm going to chain 1. Now you can still chain 2, but I found that my chain 1s were just enough for me. And then I'm going to go back in and single crochet. Okay, so that's going to create our little corner there. You can definitely single crochet chain 2 if you really want that corner to be super sharp. But because I'm using this as part of a larger project, I'm going to sew these together. I'm not too worried about it. So once you've done that, we are now going to work into every stitch except for that chain 1 space. But we're going to work into the back loops only. So you see, there's the top of the stitch. We're only going to insert into the back loop and not the whole stitch. We're going to continue with our single crochets. We're going to insert into the back loop only, and we're going to single crochet along these shells. So there's 2 and there's 3. Okay, and then we are going to skip the chain 1 and then go into the next 3 stitches. Now, you can go into the chain 1, but what that does, it's really going to cause your work to kind of spread out a little bit. And I'm trying to keep this very uniform. So we've got back loops only, okay? And now we're into our corner. So we're gonna place a single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. And I keep that chain 1 nice and loose so that, see, it helps me go around the corner there. So along each side now, you're going to have 8 stitches. So where do we get the 8 stitches? So each shell, oops. So each shell has 3. So 3 and 3 is 6, but remember that we also have a single crochet in this space and a single crochet in that space before we turn the corner. So each side will have a total of 8 stitches in total. We're not counting that chain 1. So I'll show you that. So see how we just finished this corner? So this single crochet now counts as part of this side. So now along the next side, so here is 2, here is 3, and 4. I'm going to skip the chain 1. Then we have 5, 6, 7, and now I'm in the corner, and there's my 8. Okay? And then chain 1, and now I begin my next side, back into that same corner, and I continue the method all the way around. So I think you get the gist of it now. So essentially at the end of round 3, you will have 32 stitches in total. So there's 8 times 4 sides, that'll give you 32. And that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead now and finish my round. I think you get the gist of how we are doing this. See how when we work into the back loops, it just brings this ridge forward, which just gives it this beautiful, nice little texture. And it really accentuates the square that is framing the diamond shape. So let me go ahead and finish this, and I'll meet back up with you lickety-split. And I'm just coming up to the end of my round here, working into that last stitch. And then we're coming up to the very first single crochet. So we're going to ignore that little chain 1 that we did. And we are just going to slip stitch into the single crochet. And then chain 1, and we are done. I'm going to snip off my yarn here. And then you'll weave in your end. And your offset granny square is complete. Look at how pretty that looks with the little ridge around the edge there. And that, I mean, you can call it the diamond shaped granny, but there is an actual granny diamond shape. So that's why I like calling this the offset granny, because really it's just a square that's offset from its frame. So I hope you guys found that really fun, neat, and interesting to do. Different way to use your granny square. And I'm curious what you will be using your offset granny for, or maybe you have an idea of what I'm going to be using mine for. Leave it for me in the comment box down below if you think you know what I'm going to use my offset granny square for, or just leave the rest of us some suggestions. I know a lot of times people come on here to look for inspiration and ideas. Now, if you have any deeper questions about this tutorial or any tutorial, make sure to leave it for me in the comment box down below. As always, you guys know you can reach me directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. I know many of you prefer to email me. I'm very happy to respond to your emails. It may take me a little bit, but I always do respond. So just hang in there if I don't get back to you right away. And as always, come and hang out with me at crochetcrafty.com on my website. Lots of great crochet tools there for you. There's sizing charts. There's some written patterns, both free and paid. So lots of great things there. Make sure to sign up for the monthly newsletter because there's a lot more close-up photos of a lot of the tutorials that we work on here. And a lot of times that's a place where you will be the first to know about a lot of cool things that are going on. And don't forget, come say hi to me. I am on Facebook and Instagram at the stitch sessions. Now, if you are new here and you enjoyed this tutorial, I invite you to come hang out with us every Wednesday morning because that's when I upload a brand new tutorial project. Now, make sure click that little subscribe button and don't forget to click the notification bell because that'll alert you when the tutorials go live. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Lots of cool projects coming up that are using modular motifs, you may have noticed. So stay tuned for the follow-up projects. And if you have been following along in this year's crochet series, which is Pillow Talk, next week we have our next installment, which is our June installment. Oh my goodness, I can't believe how quickly the year is going by. And by the way, what did you guys think of the May pillow, the Lulu pillow? That stitch was so fun to create, the loop stitch. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to I'll leave the link to the playlist of all of the crochet pillows that we have done so far this year. And then stay tuned for next week when we have June's pillow coming out. It's going to be really, really good, guys. All right, that's it for me today. Happy crocheting. Take good care of yourselves, and I will see you in next week's session. Bye-bye.